I'm hoping that I've got audio now. God, trimmer. Why? I have no idea why that gets shut off. Good grief. Let's go to advanced. So this has been an ongoing OBS struggle. I want to check. I should be able to go into advanced audio properties. Yeah, everything's exactly where I left it. So apparently, yeah, trimmer, gosh, man, I'm so sorry about that. OBS automatically turns off my microphone, apparently, that it just does it all on its own. I'm having to deal with this every time I use OBS. There's no excuse for it. It just does it so that to frustrate you. What's probably going to happen here is that OBS is going to start selling their product, and they're going to start degrading the product that they've made available for free. So they're doing all this stuff to prep you for having to pay for it. I don't know. But boy, I'm sorry about the audio not being there. I didn't say anything terribly important. Aside from the fact that, what would you rather play on? Frets that look like this or what they look like before this? And also, this guitar is owned by a client of mine who I have done so much work for. He's a very, very wonderful man, very successful attorney, and has helped me throughout the process of the fire that I've dealt with, and getting stuff dealt with on that. And a very, very kind man, very smart man. He's not only is he an attorney, he is an RN in our great state of Oregon. So I've moved. What I started out with was 400 grit, and I've moved up to 600 grit here. And you're gonna get to watch me sit here and run some elbow grease on this guitar for at least a few minutes. And I'm gonna do something that I don't normally do very often on a guitar. I'm gonna use my Dremel tool as my final polishing move on these. So I'll give you guys an idea of what that is all about. And when I'm sanding these off, I'm using very light strokes. I don't want to remove the crown on these frets. All I'm doing is doing enough to get the guck off of it, the DNA, whatever it is, oxidation, wear and tear. I don't want to remove the crowns. These frets are crowned very nicely. I did the crowning job on these. I think I worked on this guitar about 3 or 4 years ago. So again, I don't want to knock that crown off of these. They don't need a new crowning or leveling. And I'm staying focused here on what I'm doing. I'll try and do my best to stay up on the chat, but I've got to stay busy today. So if I don't respond to a question immediately, I know there's typically guys in the chat that can answer questions. Hopefully I've got this pointed. Yeah, there we go. It looks pretty good. My framing is okay. My camera guy's doing good today. Again, we're just knocking the guck off of them. So I'm at 600 grit. And I'm going to move directly to 1500 grit now. This is some 1500 Gator paper. Han Solo. I haven't run a year on this. If you would like, Han, if you would like, here's the serial number on this. Go ahead and do a quick search, and you tell me what you find. There are no date codes that I'm aware of that are in Fender serial numbers, although I could be wrong on that given this era. MN 5183549. There's your serial number. Look it up. You tell me, man. I gotta give you something to do. 1995. Okay. Cool, cool. So this is a 95 Strat, is that what you're saying? Huh? Or the one you have is a 95? I'm confused. Okay, now I'm going to get back busy here, staying focused on the work at hand. So I'm hitting this with some 1500 just to smooth out any scratches I may have placed in the frets by using the 600 and 400 grit. Really light strokes. This just kind of puts that final little flatten them out touch on the top of them. Again, I don't spend a lot of time on each fret. I don't want to remove the crown on these. Let me see. This is a 95. Now, with regard to that, did you run the serial number on Fender's serial number search, or can you tell by the actual number? I usually, if I'm curious about the age of a guitar, Fender offers a pretty comprehensive serial number lookup system, and it's very accurate, near as I can tell. Or do you know the code inside that serial number that actually does contain the date? MN5, would that be 95 or? There's so many ways you could interpret that, I suppose. Most of the time, the year of a guitar isn't terribly important to what I'm doing. It's owned by, the guitars are owned by someone, and most of the time they do know the era of the guitar and when it was built. They don't often ask me to find out what year is it, you know. Most of the guys don't care, they just love their guitars, so. I'll finish up here. Okay. So we polished these frets. Oh, okay. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you for that info. Yeah, and you know, the way companies are with their serial number, changing them, you know, to try and stay up on all that. It can be a job just to find stuff out. Okay, so we've got a nice finish on this fingerboard, and again, you got to be excuse me, you got to be real careful with your fret protector to not scuff up the finish, the lacquer finish on an instrument. So I'm going to go ahead and use some good old-fashioned Meguiar's compound on this. I'm not going to go ahead and use my Dremel on this one. I've decided in this process I'm going to go ahead and use some polish and go over the fingerboard with some polish to remove any little scuffs that I may have gotten in the lacquered finish using the fret protector tool. And this will make this fingerboard, should make this fingerboard a bit shinier, and also this will put the final polish on these frets. Given this is a finished, I wouldn't do this on a guitar that has like a rosewood or an unlacquered fingerboard. That would be, I don't think it's good to get this polish directly on the finish. And I can see, you know, a little bit of marking here where my fret protector, fretboard protector has scuff the finish ever so slightly. Just want to make sure that that stuff goes away. You can see all the guck that comes off of there onto my rag. Yeah, that's cool to know. But as you probably well know, they could change that in a moment's notice. And a lot of that comes from Gibson being so secretive about their serial number process. It's tragic. I think Fender's trying to keep up with their confusion in some cases, but that seems like a pretty simple formula. Definitely the M, I'm aware that that means made in Mexico. And not all the parts on Mexican-made Strats are actually made in Mexico. They still use the metric system, but you'll get a Mexican-made Strat that has standard parts or imperial measurements for the parts on them. I've worked on Strats made in Mexico that have standard imperial measurements for the truss rod adjustment in some cases, so they're not very clear on. Might be assembled in Mexico maybe, but the parts aren't necessarily made in Mexico. And I know that a lot of Japanese Strats, if you happen to own one of those, have a similar situation going on, where the actual parts in the guitar were built in America, shipped them over to Japan to have the guitar built, and then shipped them back. That's kind of how things work. Apparently they could save money that way in building the guitars, or they could just get more production done. Okay. So the fingerboard looks a little dull right now from having this polish run all over it. And I'm seeing a little bit of guck right here. Let's see if I can get that. Well, that's just wear and tear. And we'll wipe it down with a clean rag, get all the polish off of it, and these frets are going to look good as new. Better than new. Nice. The guitar didn't have any major malfunctions. It was just the gentleman who owns the guitar has another very, very nice American-made Strat, very old one. I think it's a 68. Stratocaster, which was just post CBS, and he got this one back from, I believe it was either his buddy or his son, and was like, holy smokes, I can't have a dirty guitar like that. So here the frets are now polished and they look fantastic. Pooh Ninja. No. No, it's no mini Strat. Those are fun little guitars. Those little mini Strats. Yeah, no, this is a full-size, ready to go, played by adult type people, adult shaped people. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put the knobs back on her. And the way I do that is I turn the knobs all the way down, and then I start with the knob facing, obviously it's turned all the way down. Sorry, let me make sure, yeah. Whew, that one's loose. These are all loose. Look at that. We better tighten those up. I may have, again, I had to remove the plastic coating off of these yesterday. And I wonder, let me see if this will, yeah, there we go. I got the right tool for the job. And these obviously have lock washers on them. So we're going to cinch these up and get them good and tight, and then we will put the knobs back on them, and then orient the knobs so that they're all facing the same direction when they're turned all the way down. I've gotten, back when I did have other people working on my own guitars, I got guitars back where the knobs were like, they'd put the volume knob on like that, and then you turn it up, and you know, that's just, nah. Now I gotta pull that knob back off of here. Got the tool for the job. Hey Rody, welcome. It's good to see you, man. It's great to see you. All right, so now the knobs are all oriented the right way. Now, look at this one. It's actually hitting this screw here. Wow, great job, Fender. That is a bummer. What can we do about that? I'm gonna loosen this up a little bit. Oh, that fits tight. Wow. Way to go, Fender. All right, so, you know, I love Fender, but this kind of stuff, this is what happens when you probably wouldn't see this happening on an American-made Strat, but it's contacting that set screw right there for the pickup adjustment. Boy. The one way I could see to solve that would be to put this volume knob on a drill and take a piece of sandpaper and narrow the width of this. Any other ideas? Hey Charlie, welcome. Han, again. My 2006 USA is D April Z6. Okay, so the letter of the alphabet being the month. A, B, C, D, January, February, March, April. There we go. My math is working. Any ideas on what you might do to fix this knob hitting this set screw right here? It's actually contacting that set screw. I can certainly lift up on the knob, which gives it, you know, free rolling, but the moment it gets pushed down with any impact, now it's touching that screw. Not cool, guys. Yeah. I have to, that little trick about putting it on a drill and then just turning the drill on and running the knob on a piece of sandpaper, I discovered that trick by having to replace some fret markers in a guitar that had come out and they were gone. So I bought some pieces of the white material that matched the rest of the fret markers and super glued those little chunks to a Dremel tool. In fact, in that case, the tip of a Dremel tool, and just let them roll until they got round, and then I'd check the size of it. And I'm gonna before I do that, that's something I can do at the very end. It's not in the way. Once I put strings on it, it's not going to be in the way. So I'll talk with Charlie, the owner of this guitar, about doing that. Because then the knob's going to be a little bit too small. It's great to see everybody here. Charlie, you got new music coming up this week. I wasn't available on Wednesday. I think Richard, probably, the Falcrow, probably had a piece of your music played. And I don't see everything. I don't have time. Maybe the pick guard swap. That could be. I honestly, I don't know on this guitar if the pick guard has been swapped, but that would be definitely something that could have happened on this guitar. I don't know. The gentleman who owns this guitar, I'm not the only person who's ever worked on this, so I don't recall ever doing a pick guard swap, but that's a very good possibility. Every Tuesday. Okay, Charlie, I'll keep looking for that. I am subbed to your channel, and I do have notifications set, but in many cases with notifications, if you don't have a shitload of subscribers, you know, and when I say that, I mean 20 or 30,000, nobody will get your notifications of your release. So all right. And as for monetization of YouTube channels, which mine I can monetize, except for the fact that I didn't get 4,000 hours of view time in 2022. So it was fun to be able to let people, you know, if they felt like they learned something from me, you know, give me a high five or a $5 bill or something, which I got $2, $3 of. But that's gone away at this point, and I'm okay with that. Wasn't that important to me. Now what I'm doing now is I'm using a little bit of the polish that I had left over on my rag to remove some stuck on probably spots of beer or some type of liquid that got on here that I can see. And always a little bit of discoloration around the pick guards where your DNA builds up. Just want to make it nice for Charlie. He's such a sweet guy, and he's a fantastic lawyer. I've had to use him a couple times, and he was awesome. Very, very helpful and very knowledgeable. And the fact that he's also a registered nurse, he's been very helpful and caring with me with regard to the care for my disease that I have. I'm diabetic, and he asks me questions about it once in a while. It's really fun. I get a text from ever so often. He sure does miss doing guitar lessons with me, but he's moved to another city that's not too far away, but for him to travel to do guitar lessons, it's not a real distinct possibility. And another thing that he loves doing is he loves putting his pick right there, and whenever he brings a guitar in, a Strat in particular, I leave him there because that's where he likes them. So he always gets his pick back. All right. All right, so at this point, I've polished the fingerboards, gotten everything checked. I want to check this output jack real quick, make sure this nut is good and tight. That is good and tight. The knobs are good and tight. Let's plug her in, see if we got any noise. Just do a quick check on the this is a typical setup. These are the things that I put a guitar through to make sure she's working correctly. Let's see, where's my I'm going to use my Phillips drive. I'm going to turn the volume all the way up. I'm going to turn the tone all the way up, and we'll, so no noise is coming from there. No noise is coming from there. Oops. Alright, so the tone and volume controls are very quiet. They're working well. And they're all aligned very nicely. And we'll check. Okay, everything's working perfect. Cool. So we're ready for some strings on this one, and we're going to do just a full setup on this. You guys have seen this 1,000 times on other shows, but you can enjoy yourselves while I string up a Stratocaster. You can see how I do it. You probably have seen this before, but we'll go. I'm going to get that rag out of here. That one's kind of nasty. I like to, because of my bench being situated the way it is. Oh, and here's another thing that I don't like about these Strats, but I should be able to make this work. They put these types of, I got to talk to my camera guy. Probably didn't see what I was doing right there, tapping the pickups. They put these types of covers on. Now, number one, I always remove the cover off of my instruments. I don't like having that on there. Hello, Hugh. Yep. Yeah, Hugh, if you want to look it up, there's a serial number. And let's see. Trimmer, I believe, was it? No, it was Hans 66 gave me the year. It's a 1995 MN5. Although N is not the 9th letter of the alphabet. It stands for 95. So not a big fan of that situation where, you know, the Floyd Rose is set up, or the whammy bar is set up to float on this guitar with a set of 9s on it. It should end up just where it started, but it's really difficult to get the strings into the holes like this. Not a fan of this style of back cover on Fender guitars. I like them better when they're a solid opening there, and I like them a whole lot better if they're not on the guitar. But of course I could take it off, but then I got to pull 6 screws, and so we'll see if I'm going to save some time here. I can see the bridge block holes. We'll see if, yeah, they'll feed through. All right. So this is a quick way to get strings loaded into a guitar. Flip it over on its front and stuff them through. And it's kind of fun to watch them wobble down into their holes. Yeah, me too, Hugh. I don't, none of my, well, my Ibanez RG570, I do have the cover on it, but as you well know, with Floyd Roses, once they're adjusted and the locking nut and everything is set, you rarely ever have to adjust them again. But with Strats, they tend to be a little bit more wonky, so I do have the back cover on my Ibanez, and the hole is very big in the back of those also, so it can get a little uncomfortable, I suppose, with not having the cover on there. And they're recessed covers. They don't have these edges on them on an Ibanez, so it's a flat back. Ibanez definitely owns Fender when it comes to that stuff. I think some of the custom shop Strats have recessed body cavity covers. Oh, and the other thing I'm going to do is I want to hit this with some nut sauce, because I just feel like now would be the time. Boy, what is that? It's like there's some guck up here. There's just a little bit of discoloration on the back side of this nut that I'm seeing here. Definitely rough. Okay. Let me see if I can get some of that off there with just some regular old polish. I'm going to take some Dunlop polish, and oh yeah, came right off. Yeah, that looks better. I'll go ahead and, while I'm at it, got a little bit of polish on here. I'm going to clean up the headstock a little bit for him. Make this thing look all shiny and fun. Now this guitar has definitely been played a lot, and it looks kind of old with the wear and tear that's been put on it from use. Charlie plays his guitars a lot, so obviously there's a little bit of fret wear on this one. And then we will, where's my crescent wrench? Go through and tighten up these nuts here. Just get them snug. This isn't an Arnold Schwarzenegger moment. Just snug them up just a bit. There we go. And then we'll hit it with some nut sauce. Just a tiny little bit in each slot. Doesn't take much. This stuff's kind of expensive. I like to do this on Strats, especially on older ones, just to make sure that those strings have some lubrication so that when you use the whammy bar, it'll fall back into tune for you. 2 wraps. And we'll get this, see if I can set a land speed record for changing strings on a Stratocaster. Trying to do it. Getting these strings on here quick like, so we can play her. This thing should, given the fact that I did the last setup on this thing with these 9s, when I pull it into tune, this thing I shouldn't need a lot of adjustment. It may need a little bit of adjustment to, come on. It may need a little bit of adjustment on the tremolo bar set screws to make sure that those are doing what they're supposed to do. And I like to allow a guy to have be able to pull back on the bar and get a full step of pitch. So like if you hit that note, you could bend it up to at least the B note, from an A to a B in my whammy bar setup. And in some cases, I'll even allow it to go 3 frets, which is a really cool sounding bend. Right? A minor third. Come on. I'm going to go ahead and leave a little bit there. There we go. Strings on a Strat, just like that. Whew, I'm a poet. Let's bring them all up to pitch and see what happens. That's G. Yeah, and I'm gonna have to do a little bit of work on the saddles, or on the action of the whammy bar. I'm gonna go ahead and stretch these strings a little bit. Just, I'm not gonna do the full stretch. I'll finish that when I'm getting done. Kind of an order of operations that I do. And Okay. Maybe over here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. These are again, they're Ernie Ball Slinky 9-42 Super Slinkies. Thanks, Hugh. Do I also do the 1.5 steps up on the G string? Well, you can't get the same amount of pull on all 6 strings just given the diameter of the strings and physics at that point, but yeah. I prefer, when I check it, I usually check it here to bend an E to a G. So 1.5 steps, or a minor third. Okay, we're close enough at this point. So now at this point I'm going to go ahead and check the neck relief and we'll see what's happening with that. Again, the order of operations when you set up an instrument is kind of important. And I'm going to go ahead and check the whammy bar before I even do that, just to see if things are appropriate. Get my put my nut sauce away. All right. So you'll notice that at this point, when I'm whammying this thing, I'm getting a half step. Let me get you pointed down here. Hopefully you can see both of these. I don't know how good that photo. So I only got a half step on the high E string, which again, you got to kind of, this is why guys have me do the setup on their guitar, because I got to make a decision at this point. Do I want to give it a little more throw with the pull on the guitar? And you know, obviously we've got plenty of down motion, but we'll get to that here in a moment. So I'm going to pull the bar back out of here to get it out of my way. And we're going to put a spring in this thing, I think, today, if it'll allow me to do that. So we're going to check the neck relief, and we'll see what's happening here. Whew. So the neck has a way too much underbow. It's got way too much neck relief, so we're going to tighten this a little bit. It's a 5mm hex key that turns this truss rod, and I fret the guitar where it meets the body, because at this point there's no bend that's going to happen. So if you go to the last fret on the guitar, you're turning a truss rod that's not necessarily bending the neck anywhere where you're pushing down, so you're wasting all that space. And just that little movement, that did a nice job on that. You know, and truss rods do need to be turned once in a while. All right. So the guitar is kind of settling in at this point. I'm guessing I probably got a bit more movement. Either that or the strings are still stretching a bit. I didn't stretch them out completely. Getting close. Like I said, I may not have to do a whole lot with adjusting the whammy bar. The strings keep falling flat. Well, that's an odd sensation. Let's see. Huh. This thing may have some... You hear that? Let's take a look back here and see what's going on. I'm going to leave the bar on it. Not really terribly concerned about that at this moment. I want to get that, figure out what that sound is. That's an odd, kind of a strange sound that it made. It almost sounds like there's a loose spring that's come off of the claw back here. Don't know. We'll find out. So I end up having to take these screws out of here anyway, right? Let's see what's going on. I want to make sure my camera's pointed in the right spot. I need a sip of coffee. Okay. So with the why is that doing that? Okay, I think I can see why that's happening. I'm gonna grab my handy dandy little tiny little chisel. It appears that this spring is catching on the chunks of finish that are here underneath it, so I'm gonna knock some of this out of here. This little screwdriver that I've got works great for having to scrape the bottom of a, say, an acoustic guitar bridge that's gotten glue or something stuck in it. Acoustic guitar bridges should never be glued in unless it's a full side-to-side bridge. Let's see if that didn't solve our problem. Problem solved. Yeah. So it was hanging up on a bit of finish that was, you can see this finish is really rough. There's big chunks of finish sticking up in here. I could knock, you know, pieces of it out of there. Again, it's just poor, you know, you wouldn't probably find this in American-made Strat. They would make sure that this was all sanded down. So Oh, there's one problem solved. I like that. Kind of fun to fix something. Let's make sure. Yep. A little squeaky, but we can deal with that. Alright, let's put the cover back on here and move forward. Fun to find stuff like that. Fix it. Didn't take much. And you know, these are things, you know, when you're working on your own guitars, my hope with these live streams is that, you know, if you encounter that on your own instrument, that you've watched me discover a problem and solve it. And then your guitars will perform to their best ability and with whatever, however they're built. They'll be perfect, or as close to perfect as we can hope. These are all done with the hope of educating folks on doing their own work, because I hear a lot of people complain that, you know, they've taken their guitar to a tech who, in whatever city they might live in, and you know, they can't always mail them to me. It gets expensive. So again, my hope is that this might help you solve problems with your guitar. Hey Zach, what's happening, brother? Good to see you. Happy New Year. Yeah, and it's holding tune really well right now. And you know, having done a little bit of the work on this thing now, the thing is really starting to settle in. And so we've checked the neck relief. We got the neck relief correct. I'm going to look at string height at this point, and we'll see where we're at. We're a little bit high overall. Yeah, all these strings are a bit high. So we'll drop these down. I don't want to make it so that these set screws are digging into his hand, but they're definitely above the top edge of those saddles. So I'm going to go one full turn on each of these. One full turn. And we'll check our height now. And I'm going to go one more half turn. As long as I turn these the same distance, each screw the same distance, I know that my saddles, given I set it up last time and I can look at them now, they're level with the top of the guitar, they're going to stay oriented that way between them. Now we're about 4.5 64ths at the 17th fret. Here we are at 6 64ths. So we're going to drop this one down a full turn and a half. So one full turn and a half. One full turn and a half. That looks pretty good. Let's see where we're at. 4.5 64ths, that's where I want. Here we are up around 5 64ths on this D string. So we're going to go one full turn. See where we end up. One full turn. These set screws are working really, really well. 4 64ths, perfect, that's where I want it. On the G string, we're about 5 64ths, so we'll bring that down again. Bring it down a full turn. It's a good way to keep everything consistent when you're making adjustments like this. And we're at 4 64ths. I'm going to bring that back up about a half a turn. That was a little bit closer than my gut tells me it should be. Very nice. We're at 4 64ths. I'm going to drop that down a little bit. I'm going to go a half turn. And then another half turn on this one. Let's see where that put that string. And the smaller strings, you got to move them a lot further than the larger diameter strings. Often you got to move these saddle screws a bit more. We're going to go another half turn. You just want to sneak up on them. You don't want to just get animal with it. And another thing with Stratocasters in particular, with these saddles, it's a good idea to give the saddle a little push with your Allen key or your hex key in the adjustment screw, because sometimes they don't actually seat down to the bridge correctly. All right, now this treble E string is sitting a little bit crooked. It's tilted sideways ever so slightly, and I hope you guys can see what I'm doing down here. I'm gonna go, okay, so that's level. Let's see what that did. Alright, so we're still a bit high, so I'm gonna go a full turn, and come on, ooh, another full turn, and 3/64, 3.5, 4, 4.5, about 4.5, and 4.5. So the action on this thing's looking really good. Now we'll tune it back up and see what that does to our string action. Chris, how we doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm just wonderful. Don't tell anybody, but the greatest automotive sound system designer literally just walked right past me. Nobody in the world is better than him. Okay. Yeah.
And then I sent her a message saying that was here. So.
Still working, but with Telecast. Okay. This is good for you. I'm working, and I'm going to have to play a Strat today, Rick. Thanks for being here, brother. It's great to see you. I sure have enjoyed your live streams, man. It is so fun. I'm sitting here working at my bench. These are bent. They're bent saddles on this guitar. The classic Fender bent saddles. I do prefer the block saddles, just because obviously you got a lot more thread hitting there. How many of these have I changed out because the threads are stripped in them, and even on brand new ones. So I'm gonna give these guys a little bit more of a good stretching. This is going to be the fun part that you all love. But when you're stretching your own guitar strings, you should take this time to do it like this. And I know y'all probably know this, but reaffirmation, it does do a great job. And I'm not nice about stretching strings. In fact, I'm ruthless. I break them once in a while.
Yep. It's time to do it, right?
That's the best time to do it. Kind of try and stretch them so they really don't stretch anymore when I'm doing stuff like that. You can see what it's doing to my fingers. But I'm tough. I'm a tough boy. Round and down. What was that, ZZ Top? Or is that Rough Boy?
That's easy top, yeah.
Tough Boys or Rough Boys? Somebody, you guys know? Yeah, these are the bent saddles on this one. Unfortunately, I don't like these, but they've been doing it since what year? 1954.
Mm-hmm.
These little 9-gauge strings on this Stratocaster, man, it's gonna bend like a boss. Alright, so now we're all tuned up and I got my fingers all fucked up. Alright. Yeah. Well, and Hugh, that comment, that's a really pertinent and important comment right now, because these set screws, or the saddle adjustment screws, are now penetrating up above the tops of the strings. And typically what I like to do when they do this is put a shim in the neck. That is the way to solve that. On this one I need to kind of make a decision at this point if I want to do that, and what would mean if I do that, what I'm going to end up having to do is readjust the action on this guitar. This is Charlie's guitar. I really feel like I should do that for him.
Yeah, some people don't mind it, but as a rule, I don't like wrecking my hand.
Yeah, this is definitely Hugh. I appreciate you saying something about that. Yeah, that's. I'm gonna go ahead and put a shim in the neck on this guitar, and have to readjust everything. And I kind of knew that when I started adjusting the string action down. But sometimes we don't know until we get done with one part of the process. There's so many things that can change that. Give it a good wipe down here on the back. It's got some guck on here. I can do a little cleaning before I do some dismantling. Now I wonder how many of you are going to freak when I do what I'm about to do. We'll see what the opinions are out there. Rick, are you going live today? Yeah, the brass telly saddles, boy. The ones that are compensated are actually pretty good for intonation purposes, which I would love to see those on all Telecasters. But yeah, with the screws sticking up as high as these ones are, I'm not going to let that slide. I am going to shim the neck. All my tools falling down on the floor here. I'm just going to use a small shim. I'm not going to use anything super thick. Let me get my calipers, or my measuring device out here. Calipers, I think they are. Rick, are you gonna do a live stream today with some plan at some point? Curious, man. I sure have loved listening to you play. This shim is 18 thousandths of an inch. And I'm just gonna do, this should be enough. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this about a 1/2 inch wide. I don't know why I'm using my razor blade. This is how, and I'm sorry that you guys can't see my cameraman's drinking again. Just want to cut it wide enough that it'll fit in the neck slot, and then I can trim it down. And take a little bit off of here. I can't wait to hear guys start screaming. Watch what I do. Remember, never use a power tool on a guitar. Is anybody screaming at me yet? But you have string tension on the guitar. Okay. Yes, I do. Alright, we'll see if this thing already has a shim in it. It's cool because these screws, when they thread through, they're actually threaded into the body. They didn't drill the holes real big, so I don't have to worry about the screws falling out when I flip this bad boy over to get my shim positioned correctly in the neck. But you left string tension on the guitar and you used the power tool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there already is a shim in this neck, and it's definitely one of mine. I put this one in here the last time I did it, so we're going to double the thickness of that up. I'm just going to sneak up on the width here. Cut the corners off. Get that thing to fit in right up against the body. Got a nice tight fit. And we'll probably a bunch of dudes out there that would never let me work on their guitar because I'm doing this. Now, of course, there we go. You want to be careful if you do this like I do it, which not many guys will, but you want to be sure that your strings all sit in the saddles when you're going to put her back together again. And just like that. We have a shim in the neck. That was not the screw stripping, that was the clutch on my drill, which is set, well, a little bit too tight. I have it set at about 7 usually. That's tight enough. Oh man, let's see. Saddle screws down, there's a slight adjustment up or down without poking up. Yeah, Rick, that's very, very common. You leave, I would assume you leave string tension. Okay. Richard, welcome, brother. Okay, so now what I'm faced with is raising the string action up to proper string height, and I'm gonna measure. I had 4 I missed 3 times in a row. Okay, so we're down. The string action at the 17th fret is now down about 2.5 64ths on this low E string. So 1, 2 full turns, and I'm gonna lower. I'm gonna relieve the tension off these string. Okay. 17th fret. So we're still a little bit low. Oh, this is going to work out just perfect. I picked just exactly the right thickness of we're at 4/64, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust the rest of these. So we're going to go 2 full turns. 1, 2, 1, 2, and I felt it make contact there. We're still a little bit low, and look what happens. The comfort factor comes back. Still a little bit low. We're really inching up on it about as high as I can get them without having the screws no longer bite the threads. Again, Rick, that's exactly why I love the solid saddles versus the bent. I'm hoping that I'm not going to run out of threads on these center strings that need to be raised up the highest. Well, pretty close. Okay. Just a little bit more. Looking good. Still holding. There we go. That's good. Now I do have longer saddle screws that I could use if I have to replace any of them because I've run out of threads on these. But usually what that means is that now the screws are sticking up out of the tops of the saddles again. Can't win for losing. 3/64, so we're good. We're looking good. I think this is going to work out great. This is going to work out 2 full turns. 2 full turns. I'm going to give it a little bit more. I know I need some more on this one. Get that up to 3. Got plenty of thread left. You guys getting bored yet? Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. Rick, I hear you on that one. I have a 67 electric 12 that has the old truss rod adjustment in there, and we got a 52 telly here that we got to pull the neck off of every time we need to change the truss rod or adjust the truss rod. And they could have definitely done something to make that process a little easier. Make a slot, and there are guitar manufacturers that make a slot in that you know, because the installation of the truss rod and putting the adjustment at the end of the neck is definitely economically cheaper to build a guitar with that type of adjustment. You know, but again, I mean, and you know, I'll just make this statement. I really, with all of the guitars, you can imagine, I've worked on, I don't know, thousands of guitars, maybe at this point in my career. And that's a pretty bold statement. I don't know if it's been thousands, but definitely in the hundreds. I don't care if I have to pull the neck off. It's just a part of the game. And, you know, again, you can tune the guitar up to pitch, pull the neck. It's not that big of a deal for me anyway. I'm not gonna Now that I made all those adjustments, we're tuning the guitar back up. Let's see. Riveted. Thread stretcher. Okay. Yeah, I've seen those. It's kind of an odd one. Something that the alteration that I've seen on some tellies, if they're not vintage tellies, I think it's a very worthwhile alteration to the truss rod. Is to they do a small router and they put the wheel in there that you can adjust. You know, you put a hex key in there, whatever, and you can turn the truss rod with a hex key. You know, those are great. They're fantastic. What a great idea. But you got to be willing to alter the appearance of your telly to have one of those installed. But it would save you having to pull your neck off. But I think part of the definitely part of the reason that necks are built like that by Leo, because back in the day, in the 50s and 60s, people could fix shit on their own. You know, if the tubes in their television went out, they opened up the back of the TV and went in and pulled the tubes out and took it to the hardware store or the pharmacy and fixed them. God forbid anybody do anything like that. You'll get killed. So, you know, I appreciate that, you know, and I think a lot of us here in the chat and on the stream and my journeyman sitting here, we all grew up in a different era where, you know, if our bike broke, we didn't have to go ask somebody to fix it for us. We grabbed a crescent wrench from Dad's toolbox and fixed it. And we can all do the same thing with our guitars. Okay, so. Alright, so she's tuned back up. The whammy bar now. Gonna do an intonation on this guitar. We'll check it, see how far off it is, but these little bad boys. Let's go ahead and see if I can make one of these work. I might have to cut it in half on this guitar. The bar doesn't thread in real solid, meaning the first... Did that just fall through there? Let me look. Was that drilled?
I hate the ones that go all the way through.
I think this hole is drilled.
Is it a Mexican?
It's a Mexican.
Yeah, I've had a few like that.
Okay, we're going to see if I can't do something about that, because the whammy bar doesn't ever get tight. So it won't stay put when you want it where you want it to stay put at the Velcro. Yeah, Richard, I'm not kidding. Unfortunately, this tremolo system, being a Mexican one, has a hole drilled all the way through the or made in Mexico, has a hole drilled all the way through the block, the bridge block. So I'm gonna see if there's threads there. Maybe I could put a screw in it to plug it. You know.
Do that back on the early made in Mexico Strats.
Yeah.
That they go all the way through.
Actually, okay, let me get back. There it is. Got the spring out of there. Okay, so, boy, what could I do to plug that? What do you guys think? Let me look at this. definitely not threaded all the way through. One option would be to JB weld a piece of metal. I would really like to do that for him, which is gonna ultimately, well, I can finish the setup on this, and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna JB weld a piece of metal on the bottom of this block. Bought a pack of them used to. Yeah. Rick, I've had well, it's been interesting. Yeah, these little springs are just gold, and a lot of guys don't even realize that they exist. And I've been talking about the little springs on multiple broadcasts, and so I think a lot of my friends on this show are starting to, the friends of my channel are starting to realize how cool they actually are. So what I'm going to do when I get done with the full setup on this guitar, I'm going to go ahead and JB weld a piece of metal on the bottom of that, so that I can then I can put a spring in Charlie's whammy bar, and it's going to behave a whole lot better. But I will still today get to play this thing. So the next step that I have to do is an intonation adjustment. I'm going to leave the cover off of this instrument. I'm going to get that out of the way. So it's time for an intonation adjustment. And I do like to do the intonation with the whammy bar on the guitar. So let's see, it bottoms out. It does actually sit.
I do have one question.
Yes.
When can I leave to go get receipts?
Head out. I got it.
You're fine?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be right back.
Absolutely. Cool. All right, so let's check the intonation on this bad boy. We've had a fairly slow day here at the shop. Not a lot of foot traffic, so it's kind of nice to be able to just focus on this guitar, not be terribly distracted with phone calls and things like that. Although, if you have any questions or need anything, you can call us at the shop, for sure. I'm always here. 963-5933, area code 541. That is Legrand Stereo and Music. Alright, let's see. Guitar sweetened. Using my good old Peterson. Now, I'm hoping that the intonation on this thing is still pretty much right, but we don't know. We don't know yet. So we're sharp. After putting the neck shim in, change some stuff. Definitely sharp. So I need to move the saddle away from the nut. Have to shorten this. Ooh, and we're out of room. I don't know if I'm even going to be able to get any. Yeah. We're going to have to move that. So, alright, let's go through the whole setup. So the low E, I need to remove part of the spring on that. I don't have enough room to adjust it. I'll show you what I'm running into there. It's bottomed out, and I've only got about 1/8 of an inch of movement that I can get out of that, so all of them are fairly bottomed out. So they've mounted this bridge a little bit too close to the nut, unfortunately. I'm going to move my tuner down here so I can be a little bit more efficient. You guys know the process of doing an intonation check. Ever so slightly sharp. I'm going to see if I can move this one back. So I am able to get, but at that point I'm bottomed out. And when I'm doing an intonation setup, I have the snark on here, and I have the Peterson, so I can kind of calibrate and check them and make sure they're both being accurate. Of course, Oh, and the other thing is that I didn't do that. It's best to use your neck pickup when tuning a guitar, an electric guitar plugged into a tuner. There we go. I was able to get that one. Boy, that D string is dead on. We're close. The G string is a little bit sharp. Let's see if I can get this one. I mean, we're talking just, I'm being absolutely, totally nitpicky. I want it perfect. Perfect. Wow, it's amazing, these little movements. I'm getting really lucky not having to do it more than once. That B string is a little bit sharp. I'm gonna give it very small movement here. So we're still sharp. It's sharper now than it was when I started, so we'll see what happens here. And then other thing is you want to be really careful about having your hand resting on the bridge of a floating bar when you're tuning. I think you all know that, but if you don't, maybe you learned something today. There it is. Dead on. So I've got to remove some part of this or the spring on this low E string. Oop, sorry about that. I hope I didn't make you sick. So we're gonna drop the tension, and I've already in the past, having worked on this guitar a couple times, I already did remove some of the spring from this guitar. Oop. Come on. There we go. So just like that. I'm going to leave, I am going to put this spring back on there, but I'm going to leave very, very little of it. So I got to be really careful cutting this thing to not lose. There we go. And I think I'm going to use this half of it. My magnetic screwdriver really helped me right there. I mean, it's a teeny little piece of spring, but I think it's vital. You want to have something for that thing to help keep that. And if I have to remove the whole thing and bottom this saddle out, that may be the step that I have to take. I don't know yet. We'll see if I can get the intonation correct without having to do all of that. Come on. There we go. The things we must do. It's amazing how many things can go wrong on a guitar. Amazing. Now I'm holding up on the front edge of this thing because I don't want to scratch the bridge with the feet of the adjustment screws. Alright, that's looking pretty darn good. We want to keep this thing looking pretty for Mr. Charlie. And just like that, we removed a little bit of spring. Let's see what our intonation is now on our low E string. Okay. Whew, nailed it. Oh, sorry guys, you're pointed at my workbench. It's kind of a mess right now. Nailed it. So guitar's holding tune really well right now too. No fret buzz. So after making that move with the saddle, again, we got to restretch this low E string. I'm about ready to demo this thing, give it a little tickle. I love playing Charlie's guitars. This dude had some really, and Charlie, he called me just before Christmas and asked me if you're gonna buy a Les Paul, what would you buy? And my response was, I would buy a Les Paul Standard. That was all I said. There's really, I mean, unless you're a doctor or a lawyer, which he is, there's no reason to buy a Les Paul Custom unless you got some special need that you want to have coil taps, or you know, and they do that stuff on standards anyway. So about a half hour later, he sent me a picture of his new Les Paul that he just ordered, and he brought it in with him the other day. I've worked on 2 of his guitars in the last couple weeks, and wow, what a beautiful guitar. It's like a Honeyburst Les Paul Standard. I mean, that thing, and I didn't ask him, and I don't really want to know where he bought it from. I don't really care. It is a very nice guitar. He owns a Gibson SG. He owns an old Gibson, like a semi-hollow electric guitar. I don't know the model of that one. And now a Les Paul. So starting to get a reputable collection of Gibson guitars in his inventory, and he owns a couple of very nice Fender Stratocasters. Come on. We'll play this thing soon enough. I know I'm playing the tuning game. Okay, let's plug this thing in and see what she actually sounds like. Keeping an ear open. Come on. And I'll plug it in and turn on the old amplifier. How's everybody doing? Let's see. So, oh, nice. Cool. The world needs far more guitar repair video creators on YouTube. My power cable is about ready to take a shit on me, I think. Alright. It's been used and abused, fellas. Used and abused. Like to do when I'm done working on a guitar, that screw is really bugging me on the volume control. I like to play them for a bit and have an opportunity to make them, you know, play them rough and bend notes, and I don't care if I play in pitch, all that stuff. But like to give them a run for their money and see if they're going to hold and stay in pitch. So kind of what I do. So it sucks to have to play guitar and get paid for it, you know? Man, it's terrible. Yeah. Well, thanks you guys. You know, what I do know about this guitar is it's very well intonated now. When I play open E and then play it up at the 12th and 14th fret, it really sounds in tune. Play an open D chord and then move that up to the 14th fret with your root. It really sounds great. The guitar feels really good, and in this case, I almost feel like the action is too low. But I'm going to let Charlie tell me if he doesn't like it or not, and we'll adjust it at that point. Wow. That's very kind of you to say that. Yeah, we took it from start to finish, and you know, this one did have a couple of issues that I encountered on it with the noise that the whammy bar was making. What else? The screw. I'm going to still have to remedy that. You know, on the whammy bar not being able to accept a spring. So there's some stuff that I was glad that I found on this guitar that I'm able to remedy, I think, and make the guitar better. So I appreciate that, Hugh. It's time for me to grab a bite to eat, have a little break in my work. Let's see, how long have we been going here? How long have I been live? So we're going on an hour and 45 minutes, which really, for setting up a Strat from start to finish, isn't bad. This one didn't have many issues, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. And at $60 an hour, what's it worth? He's going to get this guitar back as perfect as it can be. We polished the frets, polished the fingerboard, cleaned up the body, made sure all the electronics were working properly, and obviously they do. No noises or weirdness going on with that. Put some nut sauce in the nut, stretch the strings. I mean, that's what a tech should do for you. I wish I lived right next door to all you guys who, you know, except for you, Hugh, you fix your own damn guitars. And I think, Rick, you're probably pretty proficient at it too. Yeah, you're very welcome, you guys. Have a wonderful day. I'm not sure, but I might have dinner with a female tonight. I had a guest come over on, what day did we get together? It was Wednesday. She came by and we had dinner together. That was really fun. So I've got a new friend that I'm hanging with anyway. So, yeah. All right, you guys. Have a wonderful day. Definitely, you know, hit the thumbs up button if you would. That would be very helpful. And hopefully we'll see you all soon on a live stream somewhere. Rick. No, you're not. I can't wait to hear you. Rick, if you would let me know, when are you going live again? Do you have any idea? Hey, Richard, thanks for being here today. Hit the thumbs up, everybody, please. Yeah, I will. Okay. No idea on when you're going live, Rick. All right. Hopefully I get a notification when you go live. Some people I don't, so I don't know. All right, you guys. Have a wonderful day. Peace. Okay. Thanks.